The woman Sheikh Hamdan flew to London to see. While his wife was in Dubai, he flew to London. That detail is in the public record. In the indirect, background way that certain facts exist in the public record of a man whose every movement is tracked by people who follow him closely, but whose most significant movements are never officially explained. He went to London, not for a state visit, not for the kind of official engagement that produces a press release or a photograph of him with a dignitary or any of the visible evidence that official travel always leaves behind. He went privately, with the specific quality of departure that distinguishes a trip made for personal reasons from one made for institutional ones. A quieter preparation, a smaller footprint, a return that was not announced in advance, because the return was always going to be determined by the thing he went for, rather than by a schedule anyone else had designed. And while he was gone, while he was in London doing the thing that the trip was actually for, his wife was in Dubai, in the palace, in the official life, fulfilling the requirements of the role without knowing the specific nature of what her husband was doing in the city he had flown to. She was in London, the woman he flew to see. She had been there for long enough that the city had begun to feel less like a temporary arrangement and more like the permanent one it had gradually become. She had the children with her. She had the routines, the school runs, the ordinary domestic texture of a life organized around the daily requirements of young children in a city that was beginning to know them as ordinary residents rather than new arrivals. She had the life she had been building in the spaces that the management of the official story had created for her. Spaces that were far enough from Dubai to be invisible to the official world and close enough to accessible that he could reach her when the official world briefly released its grip on his schedule. He reached her on this trip the way he reached her on all the trips, by going to where she was rather than requiring her to come to where he was. That quality, the going to her, the flying toward her rather than summoning her toward him, is one of the things the people who know this story use to describe what the relationship actually was and why it was different from the other connections in his life that the official story has declined to acknowledge. He went to her across a significant distance, at personal cost and at the cost of the official narrative, which could accommodate his London trips only by not explaining them. He went because the going was the only way to have what the relationship provided. The real version of himself in the presence of the person who received that version, without requiring it to be anything other than what it was. The wife in Dubai was not ignorant in the way that the phrase, while his wife was in Dubai, might suggest to someone hearing it without context. She knew by this point in the marriage that there was a private world. She did not know every detail of it. She had not yet arrived at the specific clarity that the phone and the one question and the one answer would eventually produce. But she had felt enough of the shape of it to understand that the London trips were not simply the London trips, that the private nature of them, the absence of the official footprint that all his other travel produced, meant something specific about what they were for and who they were for. She felt it, in the specific way of a woman who has been feeling the shape of something for long enough that the feeling has become its own form of knowing even without the evidence that would make the knowing undeniable. London received him the way it always received him when he came for this reason, without ceremony, without the official apparatus that surrounded him everywhere else, with the specific anonymity that a large international city provides to people who want to be in it without being visible in it. He was not the crown prince of Dubai in London on those trips. He was a man going to see a woman he loved and the children she had given him. The title stayed at the airport. The management stayed in Dubai. And for the duration of the trip, for however many days, the official schedule could accommodate the absence. He was as close to simply himself as his life ever allowed him to be. She knew he was coming before he arrived. That is the nature of a relationship that has its own established rhythms. The departure from the official context announces itself to the person being traveled toward in the specific way that consistent patterns always become readable to the people who are close enough to observe them. She prepared for the arrival the way someone prepares for the arrival of someone they love and have been missing. Not with performance, not with the kind of orchestrated welcome that official visits require, but with the ordinary readiness of a person clearing the space for someone whose presence they have been carrying the absence of. The children knew he was coming. They had their own relationship with the pattern of his arrivals, their own understanding of what the coming meant and what it produced in the texture of the days while he was there. He was there for days. The specific number of days that the official schedule could absorb without producing the kind of visibility in Dubai that the management was not going to be comfortable with. Not long enough. It was never long enough. But real enough. The days with her, with the children, in the ordinary domestic reality of the life she had built in London, to make the flying worth what the flying cost, uh, both in the practical sense and in the sense of what departing again at the end of those days cost a man who had spent years making these trips, and departing at the end of each one back into the official life that was waiting for him in Dubai. His wife was in Dubai the whole time, in the palace, doing the things that the official role required of her, uh, fulfilling the requirements of a marriage that was supposed to be the primary relationship in his life, not knowing at the level of fact, at the level of specific confirmed detail, exactly what the London trip was for, carrying the shape of the knowing without the specifics. In the specific way of a woman who has been carrying the shape of something for long enough that it has become its own kind of weight, one that she was still trying to decide whether to put down or continue carrying when the more complete knowing eventually arrived. He flew to London. He saw her. He was there for the days the schedule allowed. And then he flew back to Dubai, to the palace, to the wife who was there, to the official life that was always waiting. With whatever he had brought back from London and whatever he had left there, and the specific quality of a man who makes these trips and returns from them, and continues in the role that the official world requires while carrying the private world in the only place the official world cannot reach him. Subscribe to this channel and hit the bell. Every week I bring you the real story of Sheikh Hamdan, the London trips, the woman he flew to see, and the truth about what a man carries when he lives between two worlds and can only ever fully inhabit one of them at a time.